My hardest opponent in the Premier League. I'd say.
Was there ever a point you thought, am I going to make that next step, or did you always believe you were going to?
Welcome to the pre-match pint of London Pride. We're here at the Fuller's Brewery in Chiswick Lane. Brentford fans, get down here for 10% off. It's a very special show this week. It's joining myself, Reece Weston and Natalie Sawyer. We've got Ethan Pinnock in the studio. How are you, mate? Cheers for joining us.
Cheers.
I'd like to point out, Ethan is of course on the waters whilst we're on the beers, but always, as we say, drink responsibly. It's been a great week to be a Brentford fan for the win against Bournemouth at the weekend, and this news coming to us today that Mathias Jensen signed a new deal to 2026. Ethan, as a teammate of Mathias, I think we were kind of discussing off camera, maybe he's kind of a player's player and maybe we don't appreciate him as much as you guys do. How big is this, him signing his new deal?
Yeah, it's massive. I think, seeing this year the quality he possesses, he's played a lot of games, he's always, his body's always in a good place in terms of fitness, and yeah, he's really come to the fore this season. Natalie,
as a fan, he's a player that he's lovely to watch, isn't he? The passing, the technique and stuff like that. What's your summary of his performances this year? Because we've spoken about him a lot on this show.
Yeah, I think what Ethan says about him coming to the fore, I think it's really a perfect example of how this season has gone for him, because he has had his critics. But I actually sometimes think he's unfairly criticised, because there's a lot he does that we don't appreciate, I think, maybe as fans. I think he's just been brilliant. Doesn't sound like a compliment, but I do mean it as a compliment. I think he's just been a steady Eddie, and you need that sometimes. You need just that consistency, and that's what I think he provides. That's what we've seen this season. He's always putting in solid performances.
And Reece, we had a little chat before about, we didn't realise how much of a student of the game he is. I had a chat with him yesterday at the training ground. Do you think that's something that goes under the radar, that you don't realise positionally and tactically how good he is as well?
Yeah, of course. I think when you watch games, you look at the skillful contributions that players make, and you don't often pay attention to the tactical awareness. And yeah, you listen to Matty talk as well. He's got a real understanding of the game, and I think, especially when Christian Eriksen left in the summer, you're wondering who's going to take control of the midfield. And this year, I think when you're playing centre back, especially knowing you've got someone who's always available to take possession, regardless of how tightly marked they are, seeing him really step up and take ownership of that has been amazing. It's been part of the success we've had so far this season, I think.
Exactly. Well, look, Ethan, you're here, so let's talk about yourself and the group. We've hit the halfway stage, obviously, with that win against Bournemouth. What's been the assessment within the squad as we get to that halfway point?
I think it's been really positive. I think when you compare it to last season as well, we're a bit ahead of where we were in terms of points. I think there's a lot of games where we've shown how hard we are to beat and break down. We haven't lost many games, and I think the squad as a whole, we're really bonding, and we're starting to feel really comfortable at the level, and hopefully we can start pushing on and trying to take control more of games.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, when you had the fixtures, especially over the Christmas period, and I'm taking the Man City game into this as well. You had Man City, Spurs, West Ham, Liverpool. Now, as a fan, when I saw those fixtures, I just had the fear. It sounds really disrespectful to say it because you're here, but just as a fan, you're looking at the quality of those sides, or certainly the history of those sides and what they have achieved. And so as a fan, you're thinking, oh my goodness, what are we going to get out of this? And for us to have done so brilliantly against all of those teams, I want to know, do you have that fear, or is that not a player's thing? Is fear not a thing?
Not really. I think it's more awareness. You're aware, obviously, the teams you mentioned over the last couple of years, they've been some of the top performing sides. But I think as a player, you go into every game thinking there's a way to get 3 points. Even if on paper a team in terms of their players and stuff may have superior players, but I think there's always tactical and physical things you can do during a game to give yourself that extra little edge, and we've managed to exploit that this season and do really well.
Done it very well.
When you go into the bigger games, when you're sitting in the dressing room pre-match and you're aware of who you're playing against, for me it was a case of wanting to give a good account of yourself. You're aware that you're kind of underdogs going into the match, but it just seems now this group, the group you're part of, this belief that, you know, if you stick to the game plan, if you apply yourselves, if you set up in the correct fashion, there's always a chance. And I think, you know, that, you know, I think it's 13 points from 15 in the last 5 games at this stage of the season is incredible. Do you think there's been lessons learned from last season that have been applied to this season to enable you to go into those bigger games with more belief, or is it just the fact that, you know, everyone's a bit more experienced now and people have got a bit more understanding of what the Premier League's bringing?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think last season, I think pretty much the whole squad, it was our first time in the Premier League, so, you know, playing against some of the big teams, you may think like, wow, like we're actually playing against these, but I think now having that year of experience and, you know, knowing from some of the games last season as well, some close losses. I think at home to Man City was 1-0, but, you know, we was always in the game. The win against Chelsea, the loss against them as well. I think a lot of the games, they were small margins. So I think taking that confidence as well, and it being our second year, we kind of like knew within ourselves, like if we do things right, and, you know, if we get that little bit of luck on the day, then, you know, we could get 3 points.
But looking at those games, and this is going to sound like just a basic fan in me asking this question, right? When you're in the change room against Man City at the Etihad, what are you and Zanka and Ben saying to each other? Or even what's it like the night before when everyone's talking at the moment about arguably the best striker in the world at the time, one of the best people they're saying the Premier League's ever seen? What are you guys like, I cannot wait to get out there and test myself against him? Or are you going, right, by the way, this is what we're going to do, make sure I'm here? What are those chats like? Or do you just not even have those discussions?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's like a big discussion about it. I think we try and take every game the same, so we try not to place too much emphasis on the other team. But at the same time, you know, we know his quality and what he can do. So I think it's just being aware of what his attributes are and what he wants to try and do. So obviously, for example, City with Haaland, you know that he loves to run in behind and catch defences, you know, like when they're laps. So a big talking point like between the three of us would be to make sure you're not too high or you're not too tight to him. Maybe give him that extra yards compared to when you're playing against other players, because we know that even if he does go short, he's always looking to play in behind. But yeah, I think as a player, you know, you want to test yourself against the best. Especially me coming from, you know, the lower leagues and making a step up, you know, I kind of thrive off, you know, the challenges and the new, like, all the different players that I'm coming up against.
Yeah, well, you've done that, and the three of you that we just mentioned, Natalie, I'm nicking you and Reese's stat here to sound better than I am. But there was a stat that upped around about points per game with centre-back partnerships. I think it's only Saliba and Gabriel at Arsenal that have got a better points per game ratio than yourself, Zanka, and Ben Mee. From a personal point of view, how have you assessed your season this year?
My own?
Yeah, you're right.
Well, yeah, I was injured at the start, so obviously I was working to get my fitness back. I think my first game was Newcastle.
Well, we discussed what we were going to mention this.
Yeah, we didn't know.
Reece was going to ask you a question about this one, yeah?
I basically decided that I wasn't going to ask the question because, you know,
you said you were going to answer.
I've had many an afternoon significantly worse than Ethan had, so there was no point in mentioning it. But you know, we can move on swiftly.
Yeah.
Look, I'll ask it. You had that time out? How was that after that game for you? Like, it was a difficult afternoon, not just for yourself, though.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, it's not nice to get beat, especially in that kind of fashion. Being my first game back. Obviously, you want to come back and make an impression and be that straight up to speed. But I think, you know, naturally, if you're out for an extended period of time, it does maybe take a game or two to kind of get your full bearings back. But yeah, I didn't really get down about it. You know, the football, there's always another game. So, you know, I just kind of, you know, assessed where I could improve and what went wrong, and, you know, took that into the next game.
It also shows, though, how much faith Thomas has in you, because again, I don't think you played more than half an hour prior to getting thrown back into the first team as well. So, I mean, that's the key denominator for me, is that the fact that you're fit, you're playing, and that's it's a huge compliment, I think.
Yeah, it does give me big confidence to know that the manager trusts me, and just try and keep showing it on the pitch and give 100% each time I step out there.
What about the manager then, Thomas Frank? What is he like? Because we have been lucky enough to meet him, and you guys work more regularly than I would obviously with him. He seems like a wonderful character to be around. I always describe him as someone that has an aura around him. You probably won't think that because he's your gaffer. But what is he like, and how does he bring out the best of you?
I think he's naturally a really positive person. So he's always talking to players. Not always about football, but he'll just come and have a conversation with you. If you're sitting at lunch and no one's with you, come and sit and just talk about your families, your life, where you've been on holiday and things like that. And it kind of breaks that kind of barrier, and players feel like they feel really comfortable and really open with him. And he is he treats the younger players and the older players the same. So he's always trying to coach us and teach us new things, and feel like if you're an open book, you keep learning and keep progressing as a player.
What about football-wise? What do you think you've added stuff to the game, or where do you think you've seen the biggest improvement since you've been at Brentford?
I feel like I'm more adaptable. So obviously playing under different systems. In the Championship, we played in a 4 a lot. Played right side for a little bit. In the 3, I played on the left of a 3 or in the centre. So I feel like tactically, I'm more aware of different kind of positions. Still centre back, but different areas of being a centre back, and just having ideas and pictures in my head. With my first touch, maybe opening up or not being too wide or too narrow from my other centre backs. And I think he really wants to work on his defenders in terms of having an idea in their head. Defensively, obviously Brian's gone now, but I think I worked a lot with Brian as well in terms of our structure and how we want to defend. And I think the combination of obviously Thomas and now Klaus, Brian in there as well, I think working on the attacking and defensive side has helped really progress my game.
Ethan said that quite casually about playing right side, left side. Reece, you've been a centre back. How hard is that? Because you've had to do it.
You think again. You look at it. You think you're shifting 10 yards to your left and to your right. It shouldn't make much of a difference, but there's a big difference. The way the Premier League is as well, like how high teams press. So Ethan being left-footed, if you're playing on the right-hand side, receiving the ball from David under pressure is going to be completely different to receiving the ball under pressure on the left-hand side. And having the ability to do that seamlessly and changing from a back 3 in the middle to back 3 on the left, on occasion back 3 on the right. Having the ability to seamlessly integrate into those positions is, it's not an average footballer can do that. It takes a lot of football intelligence to adapt like that. And again, from where you've come from through Dulwich, through Forest Green, Barnsley, and into Brentford in the Premier League, to continually evolve your game to the point now you're breezing through Premier League matches, whether you're playing, as you say, centre, left. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. It's not an easy thing to do because, trust me, I've tried it and I've failed it many times.
Well, you said you did the reverse.
The reverse, yeah, the nosedive. But no, it's testament to Ethan's ability to be able to adapt so seamlessly to different positions.
We spoke about your journey, and Little Phil 97 Brentford fan actually had this question for you. How do you think that experience from the lower leagues and at Dulwich has helped your career progression?
I feel like it's in terms of the number of games I played from a young age. So I think before I went to Forest Green, I'd already played over 200 games. So I think just having that base of games and the kind of being in so many different situations, and the team I was at Dulwich, we were always kind of pushing to get promoted and stuff. So we was always kind of playing for something. I was never really just playing games just to play. It was always a reason behind it. And I think as you go up the leagues and you're in league football, and there's a lot of meaning in every game, and I think that's really helped in terms of being able to stay composed and stay present within games.
Do you think that mentality the journey that you've been on has influenced your mentality, and it's something that when you look at not just your career, so many of the squad have made, well, they've been at professional clubs like yourself at Millwall, dropped into non-league, and then they've made the journey all the way back up. You look at Ivan, you look at Shandon, you look at so many, Rico, who's made his way up from the lower leagues. Do you think that's why this group is so special? Because so many of you have had to make that journey and work so hard to get to this level and maybe appreciate it more and want to just keep pushing on?
Yeah, I do believe so. I think, you know, when you're in an academy or at a pro club and you do drop down, I think there's a point where you either, you know, like make the decision and like I'm gonna get back up there, or you kind of accept it, or you know, kind of give up. And I think that having that mindset, a lot of the players have been in similar situations, and yeah, you just kind of, it gives you that extra bit of hunger. And once you're there, it makes you want to stay there because you know obviously the other side of the game, or yeah.
Do you pinch yourself as to where you are now, or are you thinking of yourself as Ethan Pinnock, the Premier League defender?
Yeah, I'd say when I had like a moment after we got promoted, you know, we had a couple weeks off. I think like I had a realization moment that like, yeah, I'm actually in the Premier League now. But yeah, nowadays I kind of gotten accustomed to it. And
you've got a swagger now, walking around like, yeah, I've done it.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Good.
Was there any point? So yeah, going at Dulwich, you're there. Obviously, you say you play a lot of games there. Was there any point where you thought, this is it? Like this is me now? Or was there a point where you continually telling yourself, next season, it will happen? You know, because you say like you came into pro football at 23.
Yeah.
So you know it's quite, you know, quite late.
You dropped all the way down by then.
Late.
You know, I was still playing at a reasonable level at 23, mate. Thank you very much. Reasonable level at 23. But yeah, but I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth, mate. It's very different, very different. So like the point being, I always found, for me, like stepping up was never a problem really. Is when I had to step back that I kind of fizzled out a wee bit.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is that
It's not about you though, is it?
It's not about me. It's not about me. It's never about me. But at Dulwich, you know, prior to going to Forest Green, was there ever a point you thought, you know, am I going to make that next step, or did you always believe you were going to?
Yeah, there were definitely tough moments. So you know, there were moments I thought, you know, I'm kicking on a bit in terms of, like you said, being 20, 21, 22. It's even then you'd say it's late to kind of go into the pro game. And I was studying at uni at the time, so I was kind of making another plan in case things didn't work out. But I always had the belief, you know, my family as well, I had a good support system around me.
Decent agent? Decent agent?
Yeah, obviously I've been with my agent for a long time now as well. And yeah, there was a good belief system around me, and you know, that kind of kept encouraging me to keep going and keep believing. And you know, I think that really helped give me that extra little edge.
We've got a few more fans' questions, Ethan. Daniel Gurney wants to ask, what has been your best moment in a Brentford shirt so far?
My best moment, it's got to be the goal against Liverpool.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Love that. What's that feeling like? Again, with the journey you've had, and that ball hits the back of the net.
From what I can remember, it was an amazing feeling. I think, you know, my family, my kids and stuff were all at the game, so yeah, it was a great feeling to score against such a big club.
Yeah.
It put us in the lead at that time, and yeah, it was an unreal feeling.
Are your kids aware of it? Like,
yeah.
Do they mention, for example, when you're playing Haaland the next day, are they going like, Daddy, you're going to be playing against Haaland tomorrow? Do they say stuff like that to you?
Yeah, because my boys, they're 5 and 7 now, so literally they love football, so they could tell you the Premier League table from their head. They could tell you who the top scorer is. They could tell you Brentford's next 5 fixtures. like they follow it crazy. So
they're giving you analysis for you
yeah.
before
So
anyway.
I just, if I'm not sure who the next game is or who we're playing in a few games, I just go, Cam, who we playing next? We'll say Leeds or yeah.
Do you know, the funny thing is, we should let you into a secret. Growing up as Brentford fans, it wasn't cool to be a Brentford fan, really, when we were growing up. Now it's great. You're giving us all loads of cred because it's something we didn't get when we were young. So I'm sure your kids are loving the fact that you play for a Premier League team as well.
Yeah, they love it.
The Archers wants to know, who's been your hardest opponent that you've come up against in the Premier League?
My hardest opponent in the Premier League, I'd say maybe Iheanacho from Leicester.
Oh,
So we played them a couple times, and I think he's a little bit under the radar, but I think he's a really intelligent player. He's strong, he's quick, and like he moves well. So I think it might be a surprise one, but I think he's been a really good player.
Ryan Lal 900 wants to know, who inspired you to play football?
Who inspired me? In my household, my dad was really big in football. I have 3 older brothers, and they always used to play as well. So I think between my dad and my brothers, I've always just had a football, or there's always been a football around.
Did you have a favourite player growing up that you looked up to?
Who was my favourite player? Yeah, probably R9 when I was younger, and then when I got a little bit older, being a left winger, I used to like how Arjen Robben played.
Okay.
So
And have you got a centre back now, or just still?
Huh?
Got a centre back that you love now?
It just looks in the mirror.
Well, and then
Yeah.
then I'd say when I hit maybe mid to older teens, I think Rio Ferdinand was probably who I looked at as I started moving a bit further back the pitch.
Ethan, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to wrap it up there because I know you're a busy man. I know you've got to take your kid to training, and I know on the way he's going to be telling you all about Leeds United and who you're up against at the weekend. But thank you so much for your time, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What a lovely guy. It's good when we get a player on, isn't it?
Oh, the thing is, I revert into this very shy, like, I don't know what to say, but he's great.
We're a bit more professional as well, aren't we? Well,
Yeah.
stop slagging off other teams, please.
Sorry. But no, what a guy. And what a player.
Yeah, let's talk about him
That's
as a
the
player,
main
Natalie. He's just cool, calm, collected on the pitch, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly that. He's brilliant. I just think, what a buy. And when you consider, when you were talking about the stat of the 3 that we have, that 3 costs about 3.5 million, let's say most, and most of that's gone on him on that transfer from Barnsley. He's just been brilliant ever since he came to us. I just think he's progressed and just grown as a player. And I sort of hate to use it, but I'm going to use it. He's just that man mountain. It's impossible to get past at times. And I just think when he's not in the team, you do miss him.
Yeah, and also it's difficult when he's sat right there to really kind of wax lyrical about how good he really is. And again, like you have to consider all factors. Again, his journey and the rest of it. But when you watch him play in the Premier League, and when you draw comparisons to other teams and other people that play in that same position, and you then compare the transfer fees that have been paid for people that are significantly inferior to what Ethan is. Now we're very lucky, I think, to watch him play every week. And at 29, and we spoke about it, didn't we, offline? He's still got more.
Yeah.
He's still got more, and he's he's a great guy and an unbelievable player for us, and hopefully we can see the best of him.
Been a professional footballer for 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years. I can remember 6 years ago. Like, I can remember it was so recent.
Yeah.
But like, I know we kind of flirted with it, talking about it, but like, he's gone from conference. It's not like 6 years. Oh, he was at the Championship 4 years ago, and now he's had 2 years. He was in the Conference South, or even lower, like he was saying with Dulwich. They were just rattling through the leagues. Reece, you've done it. Like, I know we banter. You've moved up the levels. Like, how hard is that to do at that, especially at that stage of his career? Because would it have been like, whoa, I'm now in League One. Sorry, I'm in the Championship with Barnsley.
Yeah.
Then it's like League One's hard as well, and then next thing I'm back in the Championship. Like how?
I think it's down to the individual, mate. If I'm honest with you, because listening to Ethan talk, he's quiet, reserved, but there's a self-assurance there, right? And the fact that he's played so many games for Dulwich before moving to Forest Green and Forest Green to Barnsley, seamless transitions. Well, perceived to be seamless transitions. Don't profess to know exactly how he was feeling when he went through those moves, but Yeah, I found it very difficult. Kind of, I guess going up the levels. I always held my own, and I didn't really have time to think. Just did it. It was exciting. It was an opportunity, and you embrace it. But then going the other way, that's where I really struggled. But for Ethan, he just seems the kind of character that has embraced every opportunity that's been presented to him. And I don't know, again, if that's on the basis that didn't work at Millwall. He's gone to Dulwich. He's played a lot of games. He's kind of learned his craft. He's had a plan B. And I think you can't overestimate how much being a pro means, and the fact he's now playing in the best league in the world and holding his own, more than holding his own. It's testament to his character and his ability. And I don't think you can say it's not been difficult, but he's done it amazingly well.
We'll just briefly say that what I think is testament to his character as well is that we're talking about his season so far, and he's the first one to mention Newcastle. Now, a lot of players would try and skirt around it and not want it mentioned, but the fact and we've then probed him, you probed him on it, but the fact that he's mentioned it goes to show he's not afraid to talk about the issues that he's had in football as well. So, yeah, there's a lot to like about him.
There's a lot to like. And this weekend we head to Leeds United. We should
Not
probably
a lot to
right, I love Leeds as well.
No, I don't mean it like that. I mean, as in
Okay.
it just Ellen Road is always
Right,
quite an
okay.
intimidating place.
Well saved.
That's what I meant.
Next week we're going to get Ethan's kid to do this bit. But right, like you say, it's a. You say it because it is a horrible place to go, isn't it, Ellen Road?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been to a number of games there and do not enjoy it. I think that and Goodison, when they get going, it just puts a little bit of fear into you. And I'm just talking as a fan, so I don't know what that's like as a player. Now, I know some players might relish it, might love it, but I can imagine a lot might also just wither. But yeah, they know how to make it a difficult place to go to.
How do you describe their style of play? The obvious is hard working. There doesn't seem to be a great deal of change in that regard from the Bielsa days.
No, they are. They're grafters, I think, and again, it's all relative. We're talking about the highest level here, so we're not being condescending by any. But they run a lot and they press and they're physical, and that seems to be Jesse Marsch's his character. He's combative and he wants that to be conveyed on the pitch. And they've struggled. They've been in games. But they're also a threat, I think. And
they've been unlucky though. I've watched them a couple of times and they've had chances. A Villa game, I was like, there's big spells.
Yeah, and Ethan touched on it about the margins for defeat and victory in the Premier League are so tight. But I guess when you judge them over the course, we're at the halfway stage now. So you can't bemoan luck for 19 games, granted. But they are a team that are capable of mounting a decent run of form, and again, if those kind of 1 or 2% improves, then they can start turning losses into draws into victories. But I think again, given the run of form we're in, the game at Ellen Road last year was madness. One of another classic away day. But the run of form we're in, I think we'll go to Ellen Road with a significant amount of confidence. I don't think we'll take Leeds lightly at all. I think Thomas will be acutely aware of what to expect, having experienced it already. It's going to be a tough afternoon, no doubt about it, but one that I think we should be relishing because of the fact that we're in such good form.
Yeah, I always think of Leeds as just chaos. You don't know what you're going to get. Yeah. Going forward, like at the game at Brentford, they can flood going forward. That's why there were so many goals we saw in that game. Either side that went forward, you thought they're going to score. Defensively, they might be a little bit shaky, and that's where obviously we'll look to exploit them. But I always just think chaos with Leeds because they're just all over the place at times.
And there's been a weird few
in a good way sometimes.
Yeah, there's been a weird few things with the two clubs, and I guess that's why it is, of course, on Sky Sports. If those of you cannot make the trip to Ellen Road, that's it, unfortunately, for this week.
It's been great.
Thanks all, and cheers. Also, happy birthday, Ibrahim Sonko, for Sunday. Hopefully, we get you the win at Ellen Road. Cheers all. You Reds. First of all, what an amazing